I'm really grateful to the organizers to ask me to come to this health conference. I could see few but very bright-minded people here, so it's a privilege in itself. My topic today is about stress, and strangely enough, the word causes stress. So please feel relaxed for next 25-30 minutes. It will be an informal talk. By no means I'm an expert on it. In these conferences, Dr. Kadiwal will agree that you have to have some disclosures, that what your sources are, who you relate to. For disclosures, I would just say अपने 4 मिसरे आपको सुना दूं ताकि ये एक थीम बन जाए कि न शायर न सुखनवर न इल्म का दावा, न शायर न सुखनवर न इल्म का दावा, फ़कत उनसे चंद लफ्ज़ों की खैरात लेते हैं। हम तो बस गदाए शहरे इल्म है नदीम, दर इल्म से इल्म की ज़कात लेते हैं। जैसे मैंने अर्ज़ की कि मुझसे ज़्यादा ज़हीन इल्म और तजर्बे वाले अफराद यहाँ मौजूद हैं। मैं यहाँ सिर्फ सीखने के लिए आया हूँ और जो मैंने सीखा है उसको शेयर करने के लिए आया हूँ। आपकी इजाज़त से तो let's begin with the first slide. Obviously we will be talking about the stress. Okay, good. So there will be a few things that we would be talking about today. It would be a very little about the medical aspects, because it's not going to help you if I'm going to tell you how bad stress is. We would be talking about, obviously, try and change our paradigm. Can I move? Yeah. Towards stress, the way we think about stress.
Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you. And some strategies. Oops. Sorry, go back. If you go back to, okay. Some strategies to cope stress, obviously, the thinking process, and some strategies about the thought control. That is perhaps my interest that I've developed over the years. So we would have that sort of a format. How stress is defined? It's a combination of thoughts and worries that has a negative effect on body responses. There are various aspects of stress, and there are various definitions and various subtypes of stress. I'm not going to talk about it. I don't know about them. I don't want you to know about them. Basic thing is that you can talk about in a way that there's a eustress and a distress and a hypo and hyperstresses. This is all theoretical, so I don't want you to focus on that. And again, this is not that I would be inventing a wheel here. You know the symptoms of the stress as well. It causes irritability, sadness, anxiety and depression, and it reflects in its various forms. So you know about the signs of the stress as well, I think. So as I said, it will be just a few words about the medical aspects, and we'll come to the more strategies that how we can deal with it. So we know stresses results in certain hormones, certain chemical substances, which causes worsening of these conditions, including heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and hypertension. And you know, the bottom line to all this is that it is bad. It can cause premature deaths because of inflicting and precipitating certain disorders. Can you see that? You can't. No. We can turn the lights a dim bit, then we would be able to do that. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be like that. Sorry about that. Right.
Just read that.
Yeah, okay.
You just read that.
Right. That's fine. So the question is that how to deal with it. Now, obviously, as I said, the real aspect of the talk starts now. It's just an attempt, to see if we can change the perception of yourself and myself about this stress. आप अगर सारी टॉक में बाकी स्लाइड्स पे ध्यान ना भी दें, लेकिन इस स्लाइड को अगर आप या इस स्लाइड से जो मुंसलिक मैसेज है अगर वो if you can carry home, that would be useful. And that's that the stress is not an external phenomenon. ये सारा कुछ अंदरूनी रिएक्शन है, ये आपकी अंदरूनी कैफियत है, आपकी अंदरूनी वारदात कह लीजिए. So if somebody says that people, society, profession giving you stress, I think they're creating an environment. You yourself is generating stress. तो ये एक अंदरूनी कैफियत है. It's just the way you look at things, it changes your perception. ये 6 अगर आप दूसरे एंगल से देखें, perhaps it may look like a 9. So it's just the paradigm that the way you look at things. Let's try and put it on an equation, what I just said to you. It's a combination of two things. दो बुनियादी चीज़ें हैं जिनके जमा होने से stress पैदा होता है. So whatever it is, the first thing I would put on this equation is the challenges. The challenges and the problems that you see or face, which could be based on facts or fiction. Sometimes ये चीज़ें यकीनन हकीकत में मबनी होती है, कुछ हम बना लेते हैं. In any case, so those challenges and problems, and if you come to a negative mind response, then the combination of these two things results in a stress. So it's a harmful state of mind as a combination of those two variables. आप लोग agree करेंगे that most of the times you may not be able to change the challenges, the problems, but all of you would agree that the mind response is that what is under your control. And that's what I would like to highlight in next few slides as well. So I think if we have a positive response to these external challenges, then you would have a state, I would say, a relaxed stress. इसी बुनियाद को हम आगे लेके चलते हैं. If you disagree with any of those slides or thoughts, please feel free to raise your voice. Or at the end, when we grow up and we are exposed to the various challenges in our personal and practical lives, there are various aspects to it. And one of the things that I've realized over the years that most of the time, we all of us carry a list in our pocket of the things that I do not have. And I felt this is perhaps the most important aspect of life. And how to deal with this? I think there could be various aspects of stress, and obviously I can't cover all of them here, but one of the major ones that I consider is relevant is the not to have list. I do not have is the list that we have in our minds or in our pockets, consciously or subconsciously. Now, based on that, I thought, what's the way forward to it? And I could relate this to one event, Waqia, which is related with Maulai Kainat. And we all know that there was a time that a man came to Maulai Kainat and asked, what dimensions and capacities I have or limitations I have in this world. Mera dunya pe kitna tasarruf hai. And I think this is you all know and you may have heard. I will just relate to my talk here. So Maulai Kainat ne usne kaha ki apni ek tang uthao, which he did. And then asked to lift the other leg off as well. And that's what was the message. I think you could get various inferences from those, but one of the things that I felt was relevant and a message was that the Mullah was also saying that you have to learn skills, you have to face the challenges. So, you need to expose yourself. There should not be any unnecessary fears or falls or failures. I think that is one aspect of it. And the other one I felt was that we should not be too wishful either. We should know our limitations in this physical world. And so you just can't have 3 legs. So you need to know you just have 2 legs. So this is what limitations you have. Now this is the test I used to do when I give these talks, and it's quite voluntary. So if you want to participate in this, what I'm going to ask in this is, I would ask you, believe and honestly believe that जिस आप हाथ से आप लिखते हैं, that your dominant hand, feel for the next 10 seconds it's dead, it's paralyzed. Can we start doing that? So if you lift, I like right with my left, so I would lift my right arm. So all of you please who could just lift your non-dominant arm for just 10 seconds, and during those 10 seconds I would like you to honestly believe that you're trying to move your dominant arm and it's not moving. It's completely, honestly dead. I count now. 1, 2, you're obviously putting an effort to move your arm and you realize 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you can move your arms. Now I tend to call this as a shock therapy, suggesting that during those 10 seconds, if you are honestly believing that your arm is dead, paralyzed, what would you think of anything else, any other worries in your life? You just want your arm back, desperately. Nothing else. Not about your finances, not about your bank balance, not about your car, nothing. And that's a way forward to look into things that we don't realize what we have. Because we are always looking and always keeping the list that I do not have this, I could compare to that person or that individual, professionally or personally or financially. But we don't realize what we have. And I tend to give this, that one bionic arm, what's the worth, how much it costs? Millions of dollars and millions of pounds. So I tend to say and tell myself as well, on those moments, that your able body worth millions and millions of pounds. So you have something to count on. Now, I did give this similar talk, and I was privileged to be with Maulana Sahib in Edinburgh, I think, a year and a half ago, with the Interfaith Conference in Scotland. There were member parliaments and the rest, all of them were there. And when I was going towards Edinburgh, I realized I could put this verse here, فَبَيَّ عَلَىٰ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. And I was on the flight, I just realized, is it the most repeated verse in Quran Sharif? When I landed, I checked, and that's true. And I could still feel that moment when I realized that particular moment when I felt a bit ashamed. That, the most repeated time, Allah has to remind that, you don't realize. So this is the frame of mind. But I always say this, don't get me wrong that, I don't want you to be complacent in life. I don't want anybody, because the school of thought we believe in and relate us to wants to excel in our fields. So, no complacency. And I tend to explain that, if this is a green rope, just assume as an analogy, that's green is your mind, which is quite relaxed. But more you put yourself under stress, it becomes stressed and changes the color, becoming more severe. What I'm trying to say here that you should stretch. You should stretch, but without a strain. That's what I'm trying to convey. So you have to excel. You have to work and try and do best in your lives. This is also relevant, and with permission of Maulana Sahab, my father's Abba ke do misre, mere walid sahib Akhtar Sahab, I feel always relevant here. उन्होंने कहा कि मैं इस तराब का आदी हूँ इस कदर सहबा, मैं इस तराब का आदी हूँ इस कदर सहबा, सकून मुयस्सर हो तो तबीयत मेरी बहाल ना हो. This is a strange frame of mind, and consciously or subconsciously, I think we become so used to of this stress and anxiety that when we are relaxed, we still can't relax. So this is something which needs to be addressed. Now, talking about the strategies, and we all need some form of gadget to measure our things, and I felt, it's, if you believe in visioneering and you can use this as a strategy, then assume that you have a stressometer in your mind, and it has a green zone and a red zone, and once you feel you're in a stress, just try and gauge your stress and try and get into the green zone. And I'm sure if you visualize it, that where you're going in your mind, it can be useful. This also is the same thing that I was trying to convey, that no complacency, but yes, still focusing on things. And this is other aspect of looking into things, and I find this quite relevant, that the mind, I feel, is a thinking machine. So we have discussed at previous conferences that it's born to think. So if you don't give a topic to your mind, the mind will generate its own topic. And I'm afraid most of the time it's not the positive aspects of life. So you need to have, other thing which I'm going to tell is a thought audit. And by that I mean that you should ask yourself, really, talk to yourself every now and then, that particular thought that I'm spending time upon, is it worth focusing on? Is it worth spending time on? And you would realize that if you ask yourself that particular aspect, you would get the answer, and you would not be spending long hours on that particular thought which you may not be interested in. Now, just few more slides, and I will end. And this is relevant, so bear with me. आपको इल्म है, कि इस कायनात की उम्र इसकी age क्या है? What's the age of this universe? So it's about 14 billion years. And that 14 billion years means 14,000 million years old. So it's काफी बुजुर्ग है. I'll come to that why I'm relating this. And what's the estimated size of this universe? It's about 14 million light years. सिर्फ एक समझाने के लिए, how quick the light travels. It travels about 671 million miles per hour. If you travel with that speed of a light from Earth, then to reach that scientists suggest possible end will be 14,000 million years. So this is huge. This is big. And I relate this, then when you compare to your lifespan, then you would realize that बहुत छोटी है ये ज़िंदगी, and आपकी perhaps हस्ती भी, compared to the size and the age of this universe. But then there's another thought, that जितनी छोटी है उतनी कीमती है. The things which are small, but they are very precious. So your lifespan is very precious. So what I was trying to figure out from this equation and this comparison is that, do you have time to be worried about trivial stresses in life, to be about negative aspects of life? And lastly, half of the time we sleep during this life anyway, 12 hours, 8 hours. But the answer to this, that of this huge universe, जिस पर इस कायनात पर जिसकी हुकूमत है, मौलाए कायनात, वो आपका सबसे बड़ा सहारा है, हमारा, मेरा. So we could relate to the inspirations and find solutions to our stresses. And I end with the quote of Hazrat Ali, that do not let your difficulties fill with anxiety. After all, it's only the darkest nights that the stars shine more brightly and brilliantly. Thank you.